the numbers, the measurements, the percentages of whatever vision we have or don't have, the numbers, all of that stuff, it does not matter. I mean, it doesn't change anything, right? I don't feel any different. I don't function any different. Hey y'all, it's Cindy from Seeing Blind. Today I'm getting my acuity checked. It's been years since I've done this, so I am here at a new low vision specialist eye doctor, and I am going to see how my vision has changed over the last many years, and especially since my pregnancies has changed my vision a lot. So we're going to see how things are different and how they've changed, and I'm just going to invite you on this journey so that hopefully it will answer any questions you may have if you're getting ready to go on a similar experience. And if you have any questions, put them down below in the comment section, and let's see how this turns out. All right, so I just finished a round of tests, various different types, measuring my field vision, central vision or lack of, and all that kind of jazz. Some of them are a little uncomfortable. They have bright lights and things, which for me can cause some, discomfort and disorientation. My eyes constantly want to move around to try to perceive what the stimulus is and fill in the picture and gather all the information it can with what vision I have. So it's very difficult to keep my eyes still through a lot of those types of tests. But I definitely remember being able to participate and see more in those tests in the past than I did today. So it's a little concerning. I'm a little anxious to see what the results are and to know, where my visual acuity is today and how much I've lost over the past several years. So I'm feeling a little anxious. I'm not really fearful. I have been through these enough to know that it is what it is. Fear doesn't change anything. It's just another step on the sight loss journey of acceptance, of adapting, of adjusting. Information is never a bad thing, and that's what this is all about. It's just gathering information to know where we are. So let's see what she says. All right, y'all, so I'm still waiting for the doctor. The technician just came in, though, and did several more tests on me, I guess, to get a full, complete assessment. And she was able to share with me a rough estimate and approximation of my visual acuity, which I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot worse than I anticipated. They do measure acuity differently when you're in the world of low vision. But after doing the math, if you equate it to the traditional 20/20 format, I thought I was closer to like 20/600, maybe 20/800, but she thinks I am closer to 20/1200. It's definitely a lot worse than I anticipated. But, guys, I feel better knowing. I think it's harder just having that question over your head, and not knowing, and just having that reference point. I do feel better, even though it's a lot worse than I anticipated. I still feel better knowing than not knowing. But I haven't talked to the doctor yet, so I'm hoping to get a lot more precise and specific information. So let's wait and see what she says. While I am waiting for the doctor, I wanted to vlog a little bit about my feelings, because I think in the waiting rooms, or just, waiting for the doctor, these are the times when a lot of us can feel the most anxiety and fear. I used to find myself just spiraling downward, with all the what ifs and worst case scenarios, and just feeling bombarded by the not knowing and all the different directions my brain would then go. And guys, it doesn't serve us any better in the long run to entertain those thoughts. I always remind myself of a saying, and I can't remember the exact wording, but it's basically like, don't borrow trouble from tomorrow. Meaning, focus on the facts that you know right now. And if you don't have a lot of facts, then acknowledge that. Realize, hey, you don't know how bad it is, or you don't know, what the treatment options are, or what your, full potential of resources could be, or what have you. Like, acknowledge what you don't know and take comfort in that. Sometimes just entertaining the worst case scenarios can just ramp up that anxiety so much that it just makes this experience so much more unpleasant than it has to be. This is the whole purpose of this, is to gain information, right? To gain the knowledge that we need to know where we are, what the facts are, so that we can plan and prepare for the next steps and our future, and to get to where we need to be to accomplish what we want, right? And I now know my vision is worse than I anticipated, and that's okay. That is knowledge that is going to better prepare me to approach the future and to make the requests for services and resources and whatever I need to still have a happy, healthy, productive future. So keep that in mind, guys. Do your best. Think positively. Don't let your fears and anxieties run away with you when you're waiting for the doctor. Just let that go as much as you can and focus only on what you do know, and try to think positively on that. Breathe through it. Don't borrow trouble from tomorrow. Okay, I finished with the doctor, and as usual, I am now waiting for my ride back home. I'm going to take the afternoon to just really process. I want to let this sink in, let this settle for a bit, and then I'm going to share with you my thoughts and this experience and how everything went. It's been a couple of days since the appointment, but I really wanted to kind of process and let things settle. That evening, I was feeling quite blue. It hit me a bit harder than I anticipated, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But basically, my vision is significantly a lot worse than I anticipated. Just to recap, I thought I was closer to 20/800, and I did know my right eye is better than my left, which is a recent development. They were pretty much equal the majority of all my childhood, teenage, and early 20s. So when I got the measurements and the acuity, once they converted it over from the low vision measurements to the more standardized. So I am 20/2400 in my left eye, my worst eye, and 20/1200 in my right eye. I don't know why that night I found myself really getting hung up on these numbers, on these measurements. And I couldn't figure out why, but I guess I was in shock at just how significant the loss had been, and more so than I anticipated. That's the problem with progressive sight loss. It's slow enough that we adapt, we adjust, and we change as it comes, not really noticing from day to day to day the loss. It's not like a night and day thing. You don't just wake up the next day and, oh my gosh, I can't really see nearly what I used to. It's just so gradual that you don't notice it as much. And because you have good days and you have bad days, a lot of the times I found myself chalking it up to that, thinking, oh, I must be having a really bad eye day. And next thing you know, that baseline just constantly changes, but you don't realize it. It's just all kind of subconscious, and you're just not aware of it, right? So that's what I really kind of had to come to terms with, that I wasn't having just a lot of bad eye days. My vision was significantly getting worse, and I just was not able to identify that was what was going on. So the other night when I got home, I was feeling quite hung up on these numbers. I couldn't figure out why, but I think it's just because I had one idea in my head of where I was at on my sight loss journey, and it turned out I was someplace else. And ultimately, guys, I had to process that, and I had to acknowledge that and honor those feelings, and then get to a place where I could let it go. And I have, because it just took me a while to remind myself that the numbers, the measurements, the percentages of whatever vision we have or don't have, the numbers, all of that stuff, it does not matter. If society, if the law, if our culture says, okay, by this measurement, you are technically blind. If you are unable to complete this task or do this or see this, what have you, you function more as a blind person, and that's correct. And that's why we have the term legal blindness, because by law, that's the significant struggle is there enough to relate more as a blind person and function more as a blind person. And so once you get beyond that point, especially what I think for me, once I got beyond 20/400, I had to remind myself that really, guys, the numbers don't matter. And these numbers, my new numbers, they really don't matter. And I mean, it doesn't change anything, right? I don't feel any different. I don't function any different. New numbers, they really don't matter. And I mean, it doesn't change anything, right? I don't feel any different. I don't function any different. But it was just a new reality, and I had to let it go. And I had to remind myself that they don't matter, because I'm still functioning as a blind person. I still consider myself legally blind. I function more as I'm a blind mom. And yeah, it is what it is, right? So that's where I'm at with it, guys. And I hope this helps you guys on your journey. And if you can relate in any way and you liked this video, if you find it beneficial, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know. If you have any questions, if you have Stargardts, you want to know how I got to where I am today, you're welcome to ask me down below or hit me up on Instagram. Otherwise, guys, that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching and joining me on this journey, and I will catch you in the next video. Blessings.